Welcome back to Transform with Travel. I'm your host, Kelly Tolliday, and today we are launching a special mini series where we're diving into planning for your bucket list dream trip, but adding a little bit of intentionality and mindfulness to it. This is all about how to plan a trip that's not just another getaway, but an experience that truly aligns with your goals, values, and the season of life that you're in. So, throughout the series, we're going to talk about everything from setting your travel intention and how to align that to a bigger, wider life goal, how to strategically choose your destination that matches your energy, your intention, how to set boundaries to help you stay present, whether that's saying no to overscheduling or yes to rest, and everything in between. So really this is going to be step-by-step process over the next few weeks where I'm going to share some of my top tips and little micro episodes under 10 minutes each. And this is to be able to help you plan your trip for 2026, whether it's a big bucket list trip or it's a trip that's going to help you hone in on one of your hobbies or a trip that will just bring you more joy. That is up to you, because when you travel with purpose, you don't just come home with memories, you come home changed, and that ripples across your family, your community, your work, your world, really. And so I'm really excited to get started with this series. All right, so I first want to start by saying that intentional travel does not mean boring. It does not have to mean that you're just sitting journaling all day or that you're cooped up in a little cozy cabin just contemplating life. Intentional travel does not mean that it needs to be boring. And I have a really great example of this. I had a client that came to me earlier this year. She was going through a divorce. She had been with her partner since she was in high school, so multiple decades. She really didn't know who she was without this partner. She had really grown up with him, and she had 2 young kids. She was going through a change with a new job. After many, many years in this one company, she switched jobs. She was buying a new house, new home for herself. So she was going through a lot of change, a lot of transition. And when she came to me, she said, Kelly, I just keep thinking and dreaming of these healing blue waters in Greece. She's like, I don't know why, but I just keep dreaming of these beautiful blue waters in Greece. Can you help me get this trip off the ground? Because I have so much going on. Like I mentioned, she was going through a divorce. She has 2 young kids. She was moving to a new home, moving to a new job. She did not have time to research. So I said, yes, let's do this together. And through the course of the next couple weeks together, we were able to build an itinerary that included intentional wellness, wine, food, nature, and we were also able to find the perfect balance over a 3-week trip. She was able to find the perfect balance of starting out with solo time, solo adventure, time to be really introspective, as well as ending with a yoga retreat on an island that I was going to recommend to her going anyway. So she was able to get all that solo time, that healing time to herself, and then bring that energy into a group and learn and heal with that group as well. She danced in Greece. She went on wine tours. She explored beaches. She made new friends. It was just a perfect example of how intentional travel, mindful travel does not have to be boring. Joy is part of the healing process, and how to really bring a lot of intentionality to your bucket list trip. So her goal was obviously helping her kind of transition into this new phase of life. But for you, you might have this goal that you started out at the beginning of the year. Perhaps as we're getting closer to the end of the year, you're starting to think about what your New Year's goals are going to be. So thinking about some of these bigger, lofty goals that you have, perhaps in the buckets of health, of purpose, relationships, personal growth, career, legacy, all of these things are like buckets in the wheel of life that we have. And so starting to just think a little bit about what your goals might be in those buckets. And maybe if you have a chance to sit down and maybe write some of these out, you'll be able to get a bigger glimpse of perhaps there's one that feels a little more important to you than the other. And why this is important is because you're able to take those life goals that you have and really attach them, align them to your travel experience. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here. Let's say you have a goal of just rebooting, resetting your health. You might have been working really, really hard, feeling on the edge of burnout. You might not be eating properly. Maybe you're drinking more than you're used to. So perhaps you want to join a wellness retreat or a yoga retreat. Maybe you're glued to your phone, like you're a dopamine addict, just scrolling Instagram, or perhaps you're doom scrolling too much lately. In the state of the world, it's very easy to doom scroll. Maybe you're going to a property, a destination, or a retreat that's more of a digital detox. I know this gorgeous place out in Sweden where they literally take your phone, kind of like in White Lotus, the Thailand season, and you do a digital detox. Maybe you need to immerse yourself in nature, or maybe you're more in like a learning capacity, going to a place like a blue zone around the world and learning from the people in the blue zone. Let's move a little bit into relationships. So you could have a goal of perhaps igniting more fire within your romantic relationship with your partner. Maybe you want to focus more on your friendships in your life. Or maybe you're trying to reconnect with siblings or parents or family members. You can plan a trip so that you are aligning those goals to be able to bring about more change in your life within the relationship. So perhaps a romantic couples trip, a fun girls weekend, a siblings reunion somewhere around the world, or perhaps a cousins reunion. Maybe you have a lot of cousins and you haven't seen each other in a long time. There's ways to be able to build trips around the relationship. We'll move into personal growth. I like to think of personal growth as kind of those challenge trips. So maybe it's you've always wanted to learn how to surf. So you're going to take a trip to Costa Rica to learn how to surf. Maybe it's this big bucket list trip that you've had in your mind for a decade and you just haven't been able to pull the trigger. Maybe you've always wanted to go to Thailand or you've always wanted to see the Great Barrier Reef. Now's the time to start figuring out, why haven't I pulled the trigger on that? What are the excuses that I'm using to not go on this trip? And what could I do to help myself be able to overcome those beliefs about why I can't take that bucket list trip? And then go take it. Go take the bucket list trip. Maybe it's a personal pilgrimage, an ancestry trip, anything like that. Then career, or perhaps you're transitioning into post-career. Perhaps you need a sabbatical, whether that's a 1-week sabbatical or a 1-year sabbatical. Maybe it's a language immersion trip, or perhaps it's leisure. Maybe you want to lean into being a little bit of a digital nomad. Thinking about things like joy and purpose. So maybe you need to insert a little more joy in your life. Perhaps one of your goals for this year was spending more time in hobbies that you love. So you can find hobbies-based retreats or hobbies-based travel, like photography tours, pottery retreats, painting, yoga, or even volunteering. There's so many different types of trips that can really help you take your goals to the next level. And what's really great about this is when you're traveling, all the noise from home, the obligations, the work, the meetings, the kids, everything kind of gets quieted down a little bit so that you can really focus on what that goal is while you're traveling. Really thinking about, what are my life goals? What were some of my New Year's goals for this year? What will be some of my New Year's goals for next year? And how can I plan a trip around that so that there's really a lot of intentionality around this trip? Not that it's boring or not that it's all about, every single step of the trip has to align to a goal, but it really helps you be able to see the trip in a different way. Your investment level is different because now you have a goal attached to it. Your boundaries might be different. The people you bring on the trip might be different. So those are all the things we're going to talk about across the rest of this series over the next few weeks. And I'm just going to leave you with some practical steps to intentional travel. And it's going to kind of set the stage for the next few weeks. Number 1 is set your intention, which is going to be around the goal that you'd like your trip to be focusing on. And then based on your intention, you're going to choose your destination. That's what next week's episode is going to be all about. Once you choose your destination, you're going to determine your price point and understand how this might affect your travel style. It might actually affect when you go on the trip based on high season versus low season. It might affect the quality. It might even affect where you go on your trip, because your dollar might stretch farther if you're going to different destinations. You'll then decide who you want to travel with. Are you going with a spouse or partner? Are you going solo? Or is this a curated tour with strangers? Is it a friend group? Again, this all aligns back to what the original goal was. And then, of course, my practical steps around giving yourself plenty of time to plan and book early. This is to avoid stress. Again, going back to intentionality and mindfulness, avoiding stress from the last minute planning. Avoiding realizing that, I need a visa and I don't have time to apply for it, or I need a permit, especially let's say with national parks or like things like Machu Picchu, you need permits for, you need plenty of time to plan. So giving yourself lots of time to plan and book early to avoid stress, to be able to have time to get visas and permits, but also to be able to give yourself as much availability as possible in your destination so you get the best price, the best rooms, the best tour guides. It all ladders up. We have lots to come over the course of this series, so make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so you can get a notification when next week's episode goes live. And I thank you so, so much for being a part of our community. See you next week. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you're feeling on fire and lit up to start planning the bucket list adventure you're craving, let's work together. I'm here to manage all of the hassle of planning, hand select your options specifically for you, and give you the inside scoop that no AI itinerary can give you. Click the link in the show notes to look through our pricing and packages. You're one click away from the adventure of a lifetime. This is your reminder to keep on exploring.